Rita, I'd like to start with this sort of classic question of why this was a project that you were so drawn to produce. And the reason I bring that up is because when I think of you and I think of the success of like My Big Fat Greek Wedding, I think of you as this like big prolific producer. But actually, I mean, you've only produced, I think, 9 titles, so you are kind of picky with what you choose. So why was this sort of the next step?
Well, I mean, I think you know more than anyone that it's so difficult to find really, really good material and then actually have that material make it to a place where it gets made and people actually see it. And I think one of the things that I always respond to when I'm looking for material or when I'm coming across something is some kind of gut feeling that I have that makes me say, this is me, this is my life. Like, we all know somebody like Otto. We all have had that experience of sort of judging somebody and then realizing, actually, this person is really great. Or maybe there's something going on with this person, and that's why they're behaving the way they are. And so for me, it was really about that kind of connection initially. And I just love material that makes you laugh, makes you cry, and makes you feel something. You know, my dad was an immigrant and my mom too, Bulgarian and Greek. And I feel like there's some kind of understanding I have that people that have never been around people from a different culture or would maybe not understand in terms of a certain kind of, like, they're different than us and yet we're all the same. So I look for those. I don't know if I look for them, but that's what I respond to. I respond to that kind of material that says, well, there's actually more about us that's similar than that is different.
Was there a part of, I mean, given that you have the source material, I would say a pretty perfect novel, as perfect as it gets, and a Swedish adaptation that was so well received, was there a part of you that was nervous maybe? Was there a part of you that kind of went in thinking that, okay, we have to make this a little bit different? What was your thought process there?
You're right. It all stands like on its own. Each one of those things. Fredrik Backman's novel, A Man Called Ove, the Swedish film starring Rolf Lassgård, also A Man Called Ove. Those two things exist perfectly on their own. And yet I feel that because though that was a Swedish movie, that maybe other people would respond to it in a grander context, because I don't know how many people have seen the Swedish movie. And that's what I really connected to. Like, this movie is fantastic. I feel like people need to see this. And I also thought, in that way that you get that gut instinct, Tom has to play this part. Like, I literally, I got panicked. Like, what if somebody else gets to the rights holders before I do, you know? How are we going to make this happen? And we saw it in a screening that came in a DVD that the Academy used to send out. So it was up for Best Foreign Film, and it ended up having a nomination for Best Foreign Film. So I immediately called the next day, and the person who had the rights, my producing partner, Fredrik Wickstrom, happened to be in LA. And we took a meeting with him. And that was just serendipitous. And sometimes things happen for a reason. So yeah, very lucky.
So you have this material that you loved, and as you said, you sort of responded to on a gut level, and then you have to sit down to write a song to sort of, you know, fit in and sort of bring out all those parts that you loved. What was that process like for you?
Well, two things I want to say is that I believe that because the movie A Man Called Ove existed in its own perfect way, that we had to do something that was going to be as good and different. And I think we got very lucky when Dave McGee, our screenwriter, said yes, because to take the story and translate it from sort of a Swedish way of life to an American way of life. That was a challenge, and how were we going to do that? And I think Dave McGee nailed that. He and Mark Forster had worked together before in Finding Neverland, and I thought that was a perfect combination. About the song, now that was trickier because Mark Forster, our director, knew that he wanted a song to be in the body of the movie, and he knew exactly where he was going to place it. And one day, he was familiar with my work as a songwriter and a singer. He said, "I think you should write a song for the movie." And I panicked because the songwriter in me was thrilled and sort of jumping up and down. The producer in me was over here, another little voice going, "What if he hates it? You can't have this. You haven't even started filming yet. What if there's, bad blood?" And so I took a breath and I said to him, "Okay, Mark, I am very honored that you would ask that. And I would be honored to write this song with my co-writer, David Hodges. But you have to promise me that if there's anything at all that you don't like about it, that you can feel 100% comfortable telling me that, because it's his movie, it's his vision. I want to be the person who can shepherd that as the producer. I don't want to be a person who is pouting because their song isn't in the movie."
Right.
So, so we wrote Till You're Home, and he loved it, which was very, very lucky. And then months later, he told me that he had an experience where he had someone write a song for him, and he didn't like it and didn't use it in the movie. And it was a very difficult conversation to have. And that person was not happy with that conversation. So I'm glad I didn't know that at the time.
So there's a line in the song, well, the whole song I really loved, and I've been listening to it on repeat for basically all of today. But I love the line, "I'll tell you the whole truth, that there's no color in the world without you."
Right.
It's just beautiful. It reads like poetry. How did that come to you? Sort of, how did that become sort of the, I guess, core of the song?
So many things went into that. When Mark told me, told us this is what he's looking for, in Dave McGee's script, he has given Otto a line that says, "Before Sonia, everything was black and white. She was the color." And I took that idea and I thought, that's so true, because color is like everything. It's a kaleidoscope. It's bright, it's happy, it's beautiful, it's not gray, it's a sunny day. And another thing that happened was my dad passed away, and in 2010, and my friend Mike Nichols, the director, said to me when I was in that moment of grieving, "The conversation continues." And I didn't understand what he meant at that time, but because when you're in that grieving moment, all you can think about is the loss. But as time goes on, you do have those conversations with the people that have left us. And it's absolutely true. I talk to my friends who have passed away, my mom, my dad, and I hear their voices back. So David and I wanted to take that idea that you would be waiting for someone to come home and tell them about your day, or talking to them in your head, like, "I can't wait, I'm going to have to tell them this when that happens," And so it was trying to communicate that people are still connected, even though they're not in the same room, and even though maybe one of them is gone, that conversation was going to continue.
I love the video because it shows sort of the recording process, which, first of all, coming out of COVID, the fact that you were able to do that together.
This has been a year of collaborations, which is fantastic. And what a wonderful way to culminate with Sebastián Yatra. I loved his voice from Dos Oruguitos in Encanto. But then as I got into his music, I realized, oh, he's an amazing songwriter. He is an amazing artist. He's got this huge following. But it was really his soul and his sensibility that came across so strong and clear, and you can see that in the video. He's so warm. He had one day to record the song, and that one day off, I should say, happened to be in LA. And we happened to be in LA. So that was just a fluke. He's a true artist, he loves what he does, and he loves communicating in that way. He performs from a very connected and soulful place, a very truthful, authentic place. I feel like it's such an honor to sing with him, and also to hear our voices blended. Sometimes I listen to it, I'm like, wait a minute, that he sounds amazing.
It's interesting because I would say, like, when you perform, I can sort of sense your emotion as well. It almost felt like I was like in the room with you guys as I was watching the video. And I'm just curious, like, in terms of performances or in terms of how you approach it, I mean, how is acting sort of, is it sort of an extent, is the songwriting and singing an extension in some ways for you? Is it like a completely different muscle that you're working with? How would you describe it?
It's, for me, music has really become, in the last 10 years since I've been writing, in the last 12 years since I've been making albums, it has become the almost a necessary creative outlet, because it is so truthful. You can, and it's using every bit of imagination, creative resource, melody, storytelling. And sometimes with movies, those take years to make and put out on the screen, or even with an acting performance. Sometimes you do something that's great, it goes to the editor and it gets chopped up, and it's not what you did on the day. So for me, songwriting and that craft has enabled me to stay enormously creative and connected while you're waiting for other things to be completed, or while you're looking for something else. So I find it an incredibly authentic, grounding experience to write, and also to sing and to perform live. Because when you perform live, I've always said that the audience is as much a part of that performance as your own performance, because you're feeding off of them.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because, with a song too, it's 3 minutes versus a movie that could be 2.5, 3 hours long. And so in a lot of ways, again, the song sort of has to encapsulate, my goodness, everything. And as you said, the conversation sort of continues through the song. So I'm just sort of curious how that idea relates to your work here, and like, as people listen to the song, maybe separate from the movie or with the movie, how you hope all of that works together.
Well, David Hodges and I really wanted to make sure that we didn't want to tell a story that was right on the nose. For me, it's all about storytelling, right? Whether you're producing something, acting in something, writing a song, singing a song, how are you communicating and how are you connecting with people? And there are visuals in the song, like sun through the shadow, light through the door. Like, to me, that had a very ethereal feeling, as if like, oh, did you just walk in the room? Oh, I thought I saw the door open or the window open, something like that. And musically, we wanted it to feel like it could be a man singing it or a woman singing it. So could it be Otto saying this about Sonia? Could it be Sonia saying this about Otto? Is it a song that he just hears on the radio? It had to sort of encapsulate whatever you wanted to put onto it as the person listening to it or watching the film.
So interesting. Rita, I have to let you go. Is there anything I haven't asked you about that you'd like to mention?
That's how grateful I am, even to be in this position talking to you. It feels really incredible. And I guess I would say one thing, and that is this, that people have dreams, and there are things, if you ask anybody, what is it that you love to do as a child? They will immediately tell you what that is. And so many times that dream has been put aside. It's been, it has a blanket put over it and it's just be quiet over there. And our lives, we go on and we do other things and we think, oh, well, that's, that boat has sailed. That's not going to happen. And I would say this, that I started writing songs about 10, 11 years ago. And it was the thing that I always loved to do as a kid. I loved music. And when I started writing, I just thought I would be writing for myself. I didn't ever think anything would happen for it, but I was so grateful to be able to be doing the thing that I always loved to do. And through that process, I found that so many people have that dream. And I want to say I'm kind of like, if anybody out there listening has ever thought, now I've always wanted to blank, I say go do it, go
I
take
love
that
it.
writing class, go take that painting class, go, take the dance class, whatever it is, because if you get joy out of it, you never know where it's going to lead. And there's no clock, no time frame that says, oh, you should have done that when you were 20. Sorry, your time is up. That's not the way it works. Just got to do it and love it.
I love that so much. Thank you so much for your
Thank
honesty
you,
and your
Shadon.
candor, and the conversation continues. That's gonna stay with me for a while. I love that so much.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Take care,
Bye.
everybody.